Dear viewers, our topic today is imperialism, colonialism, and decolonization. In simple words, colonialism is the policy or practice of acquiring full or partial political control over another country. In this connection, Dennis Judd says the desire for profitable trade, plunder, and enrichment was the primary force that led to the establishment of the imperial structure. He claims that colonialism was the upshot of the commercial venture of the Western nations in the late 17th and early 18th centuries, yet others date its origin to the European voyages in the 15th and 16th centuries. In short, colonialism was a lucrative commercial operation, bringing wealth and riches to the Western nations through the economic exploitation of others. Hence, colonialism and capitalism are interlinked. The relationship of colonialism with imperialism and capitalism. Colonialism is sometimes identified with imperialism, pointing out the difference between colonialism and imperialism. Both Peter Childs and Patrick Williams assert that imperialism is an ideological concept which upholds the legitimacy of the economic and military control of one nation by another. On the other hand, colonialism is not a mere concept. It implies the actual settlement of one group of people in a new location. Imperialism is not strictly concerned with the issue of settlement and is still manifest in many developing countries. Contrarily, colonialism has come to an end. As far as capitalism is concerned, it can be said that it is an economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit rather than by the state. Periods of decolonization. Decolonization took place in three steps. The first period of decolonization was marked by the declaration of American independence in the late 18th century. The second period spans the end of the 19th century to the first decade of the 20th century and concerns the creation of the dominions. This was the term used to describe the nations of Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa. These nations are today referred to as settler nations. They consisted of large European populations that had settled overseas. They either violently displaced or in some cases destroyed the indigenous peoples of these lands. The settler peoples of these nations achieved self-government as dominions of the British Empire, yet as a dominion each still recognized and pledged allegiance to the ultimate authority of Britain as the mother country. Canada was the first to achieve a form of political autonomy in 1867. Australia followed suit in 1901. New Zealand similarly in 1907 and South Africa in 1910. Slightly after this period, Ireland won self-rule in 1922, although the country was partitioned and 6 counties in the northeast remained under British control as Northern Ireland. In 1931, the Statute of Westminster freed them from the yoke of the British authority and gave them full governmental control. The third period of decolonization occurred in the wake of the Second World War. Most colonized lands in South Asia, Africa, and the Caribbean consisted of larger, dispossessed indigenous populations settled and governed by small British colonial elites. The achievement of independence, particularly in South Asia and Africa, occurred often as a consequence of indigenous anti-colonial nationalism and military struggle. India and Pakistan gained independence in 1947 and Sri Lanka in 1948. The decades of the 1960s and 1970s caused speedy decolonization throughout the declining empire. The Caribbean and the South Atlantic were decolonized in the 21st century. The reasons of decolonization are as under. Firstly, the growth of many nationalist movements shook British colonial authority to the core. Secondly, the decline of Britain as a world power after 1945 and the ascendancy of the United States and the Soviet Union. Thirdly, and most importantly, large scale production and huge international finance paved way for capitalist forces and discouraged further colonial settlement. To conclude, the 20th century is the century of decolonization. It ushered in the era of complete independence for many dominions or dependent countries after a long, dark, and painful period of colonial rule. Thank you very much.